live onto Facebook and live onto LinkedIn. And we are live. Stuart Taylor, say hello to the world.
Hello, the world.
Stuart, it's great to have you on. We're doing a really interesting broadcast today about Justdiggit, cooling down the planet together. And Stuart's going to give us a bit of a briefing, a bit of a background as to him and also Justdiggit. So let's just give it a little bit of a background for those listening in on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and also the podcast. And I just want to also introduce how Stuart and I come together, because I think it's got a lovely, catchy connotation. And we had another recent example as to how well Justdiggit, Stuart and his colleagues are doing on their mission, to reiterate it, to cool down the planet, and we're going to cool it down together. So all of us are living in a global climate crisis. Who didn't know that? Our planet is warming fast. Luckily, there is a solution. If nature is brought back by applying cost-effective, nature-based solutions, we can mitigate global warming by, drumroll, 37%. This will benefit nature, biodiversity, and people everywhere and help cool down our planet. Justdiggit are on a mission to regreen Africa and cool down the planet, together with millions of farmers and together with you. Again, this is why we're really keen to get Stuart and Justdiggit on, so we can assist not only individually, but with all the companies that we all collectively know in our fresh food, fresh produce sectors, to see if we can get aligned to Justdiggit. So Stuart has a 35-year career in the UK media sector. He now devotes his time to tackling this climate crisis as UK country director for the Dutch environmental foundation Justdiggit. So they believe in the power of nature and in cooling down the planet together by regreening degraded land and bringing back vegetation. Their mission is to regreen Africa in the coming 10 years, together with all 350 million farmers in Africa and with you. To give nature a push, they empower and connect a movement of millions. So far, they've restored 60,000 hectares, brought back over 6 million trees, and built a grassroots movement that's grown every day. They believe now is the time to speed up and scale up. No more talking, no more waiting. This is the decade of doing. Dig in and cool down the planet with Justdiggit. Stuart, I love that. I've obviously plagiarized a lot of it off your website, but your communications team, as we said in the green room, they got some real great magic dust. I just love the way that you have presented yourself, yourself and your colleagues. I presume you're in agreement.
Well, absolutely. And as you said, it's serendipitous that we're talking today, because you actually were able to see, you were privileged to see our cinema commercial, which is out at the moment all over the UK, and which prompted you to get in touch, which I think is exactly the point. And this is the power of mass communication. And I think this is one of the things that sets Justdiggit apart, is that we have a very strong, positive communication approach. We don't just do the activation and the work on the ground, but we believe in the power of positive storytelling.
Yeah, and you sort of stole my thunder, because I was going to say the tenuous link, Stuart, between you and I was Lady Diana. How does that work? Because when was it? About a month ago, my daughter and I, my 17-year-old daughter and I, we went to see Diana in the cinema in Bury St Edmunds in Suffolk. And I don't know about you, Stuart, but the only other film I'd seen in the last 18 months because of everything was the James Bond film. But we get in to see Diana, which is a great film, everyone, if you haven't seen it. And they do the adverts at the beginning, and there was this, and we're gonna roll it for you so you can see it in a minute. There was this really powerful, unusual, visceral advert with Justdiggit. And no offense, Stuart, I wasn't aware of who Justdiggit was, and I did the naughty thing. I took a quick picture with my phone. I then got in contact with Stuart and his team via the website to say, you look great. Can we talk about this? Can we get you on Beanstalk? And I was just saying to Stuart again in the green room that I got dragged to see. Remember it, Stuart? House of Gucci. Great film if you're into very expensive leather wallets, belts, and shoes. And again, at the start in the adverts, they ran the Justdiggit's ad. And there was a small bunch of ladies, I'm guessing in the early 20s in front of me. And a couple of them got out their phones and snapped the Justdiggit closing page on the advert. So it's yes, Stuart. So again, all credit to yourself. So it's created a lot of resonance for those going to the likes of cinema to just get a better understanding. I tell you what, Stuart, shall we run your cinema advert so everyone can see it?
Yeah.
So if you just turn off your video, and I say to Stuart how this is my This is my Raymond Blanc moment where nothing works, but we're going to get this. Got to get this to work. Here we go.
Global warming is moving in fast. Time to speed up regreening. If millions of African farmers are empowered, the mother continent can be regreened in 10 years. So dig in, make some noise and move the masses. Dig in, help inspire the new generation. Fathers, mothers, children, everyone. Regreening is done together. Dig in. Cooling down the planet. Just dig it.
Wow. Stuart, can you come back in?
There we go.
That was excellent. Might even play us at the end again, Stuart. So Stuart, before we get into Just Dig It, we have so many graduates that listen in, and they're always really curious as to the background of people that we have on. If it's okay to ask you, Stuart, what's your background? How did you go through this illustrious media career and end up with Just Dig It? What's your background, please?
Well, it's really very simple, and to keep it sort of short, I had a career in media as you've kindly told people, but I was getting to the point. I was starting to sort of hear all the different messages going around about climate change. This was several years ago, and I've always been I've always loved the outdoor world. I've always loved mountains and trees and forests and lakes and so on, and I never really thought about it being really under threat. And I think it was actually an article in my old alma mater, the Guardian newspaper, where I think about 5 years ago, there was an article which literally stopped me in my tracks. And it said something like 70% of the world's wildlife in the world, whether it's insects, mammals, giraffe, you name it, has disappeared since the 70s, literally disappeared. And I sort of couldn't believe this. I thought, what? It was one of those very memorable sort of jaw-dropping moments. And so I did some research on it. And I remember the 70s. I was a teenager in the 70s. And I thought, this has happened while I've been working. This has happened while I've been sort of in my career and growing up. And I just couldn't believe it. And then it sort of tuned my radar into really everything else that was going on that I hadn't really been listening to. I watched the David Attenborough programs, Blue Earth, Planet Earth, whatever, and started listening to things. And I started to piece it all together that, we really are facing a bit of a problem here. And it prompted me to think, I just kept thinking about it and couldn't stop thinking about it. So I felt I was also thinking about the next chapter for me in my sort of working professional life. And I came to the conclusion quite quickly, I couldn't really do anything other than try and help. It really was a sort of a moment for me, like a Damascene conversion, where I thought I'm going to have to do something about it. I can't, in all legitimacy, go and work for another media company and not devote my time to this. So, and serendipitously, a colleague of mine at my last job, at my last company, Kinetic, is actually working as an ambassador with Justdiggit. And so I sort of retired from my job, my corporate world, but he introduced me to Justdiggit. And we had a lovely conversation shortly before first lockdown. And we got on like a house on fire. They're a really wonderful bunch of people to work with. And, I've worked with a few in my time. And so I got the train to Amsterdam, and we sort of had a lovely time together. And I agreed to say, well, no one's heard of Justdiggit in the UK. Let me try and help. And I felt, we can come on and talk about Justdiggit, but it really is, the work we're doing on the ground particularly is phenomenal. Yeah. And it's really opened my eyes to all these amazing people that are, we're not the only people helping solve climate change. There's armies of people out there. Yeah. And it is just incredibly empowering to,
It's just where I think it's fascinating with someone like yourself. You look at the huge skill set and the huge network that you got from the media sector, and it's now that you can put it even to more good by being aligned to the likes of Justdiggit. What I think it's really interesting is that we have so many graduates now coming into the fresh food sectors, and I call it my Goldman Sachs moment, that some of these younger individuals could go be aligned to Goldman Sachs and earn six-figure amounts and work 100 hours a week, but they're not actually doing anything good for the planet. And as such, they're pivoting and they're looking to get involved with the likes of fresh food that has been grown in a regenerative, sustainable manner that's going to do good for the planet and also for all of those associated with them. And I've always biased those comments to that younger generation. Not saying that you are mature or anything like that, Stuart, but the fact that you've got this great network and skill set and that you can deploy it to doing good as well by being aligned to the likes of Justdiggit. I think there's a real good example there for other individuals who, if they've got more time, and we get loads of people with my recruitment head on asking to be involved as a non-execy, but actually if they've got the time and the willingness to be aligned to the likes of Justdiggit or other environmental groups to make positive change. We're sort of attacking it, Stuart, from both ways. We've got the younger generation who want change, and we've got the mature generation who can also create change and accelerate it faster because of all their network. I think in that respect, be very positive. It's a very exciting time.
Completely. I mean, we have literally dozens of really smart young people wanting to contribute at Justdiggit, usually as an intern or part of their university work or their postgrad work. And they're so smart and they're all very, very motivated to do some good in the world. And I think it's incredibly energizing and very heartening, actually. But you're right. And I think if people like me can bring some expertise that they don't already have at Justdiggit. What I love about Justdiggit is most people there have had quite a lot of experience in the commercial world. And we have this saying that we wish a lot of NGOs were more like businesses, and we wish more businesses were more like NGOs. Wow. Yeah. There's a lot of sort of experience swapping and professionalism that could be swapped. Yeah. So yeah, as I say, I just don't think Justdiggit is typical. They've got a lot of unique characteristics. Yep,
and that's why we wanted to get you on, because we're probably not your main sort of target that you want to acquire. It's probably going to be more likely the ladies I was talking about watching the House of Gucci, taking screen grabs of Justdiggit and coming on and getting involved with. But we've got so many people on Beanstalk, not only in Africa but also in South America and the likes of Australia, that what I want to get out of them hearing you today, Stuart, and also viewing your website, is that if their land or the communities that they're involved with, if they could just look at what Justdiggit is doing and achieving, so that we can get this by what's the word I'm looking for, Stuart? Osmosis. By a process of osmosis, we can get everyone to say, actually, that's a really good idea. Why don't we do that? Why don't we get our local communities in Ghana, in Africa, in Benin, in Egypt, in Tasmania to do likewise? So or like I say to my kids, be curious. So that's why I've been curious. So hopefully everyone dialed in could be curious about Stuart and about Justdiggit. But come on, Stuart, let's get the proverbial spade out and dig down a bit. Tell us everything about Justdiggit, please.
Well, maybe just a bit of background. As you rightfully said in your introduction, Justdiggit is a Dutch NGO, and we're based in Amsterdam and Nairobi. We're on a mission to regreen dry land. It was founded by a guy called Peter Westerveld and another guy called Dennis Karpers. Peter was an inventor and an artist. He lived in Kenya for much of his life, and he could see the effects many years ago of desertification, whether it was droughts, intermittent droughts. And we're talking really about subsistence farmers here, for whom a bad summer is often a chance to a problem with survival. Yeah. And he could see the effects of water holes drying up and soil becoming hard and unfarmable. But he started restoring the fertility of the soil by harvesting rainwater, by digging trenches with bulldozers and so on. Peter passed sadly many years ago, but now there's a lot of sort of new influences in Justdiggit, and we've developed a much more community-based approach to ecosystem restoration. I mean, there's no one size fits all. You have to work with the land, you have to work with the community, and you have to work with grassroots partners on the ground. We work with the Maasai Wilderness Conservation Trust, the Amboseli Ecosystem Trust, the African Conservation Centre, and many, many more. And this provides local people with an income, it provides them with hope, and it also provides them with ownership of the outcomes. So, degraded land is a massive, massive issue all around the world. And, we focus on Africa for a reason, but, there are other regreening NGOs working in California, southern Spain. And, this is a colossal problem all over the world. And, it is, as you said, if we can get this right, it can contribute 37% to the effects of climate change by restoring nature. So, the actual, techniques, I can go into the techniques we use if you like, or
yes, please.
Yeah. So, we have this mission that if we can warm up the planet, we can cool it down. And we work with local communities. Primarily, we work in Kenya with digging these crescent-shaped bunds, which you've seen. We call them earth smiles. And they're just 5-meter sort of crescent shapes, which are about half a meter deep. And obviously we do the planning, the local people do the digging, so we pay them to do this. It's hard work, by the way, in the sun. All the digging is done in the dry season. Then the rains come, they fill up these earth smiles with water, and the seeds already in the ground start to germinate. It's nature and its miracles. And then this goes on once or twice, and suddenly you've got ground cover as the greenery spills over and they meet each other across multiple hectares. So that's primarily what we do in Kenya. In Tanzania, which is our other big program area, we're developing sort of tree restoration programs, and this again is phenomenal because by restoring trees, a lot of the trees have been cut down in Tanzania, just like they have in the UK and everywhere else, America. But the tree roots, the trees have been cut down for fuel or building materials or whatever, but the tree root still remains in the ground, and the tree exists as a small, sort of useless bush. But by employing this kasiki hai, this technique called clever pruning, you can protect the tree, mark it, prune it skillfully, and the tree will devote all its energy to becoming a proper tree again. Fantastic. And this is phenomenal, because I think we all know the benefits of trees. They provide shade, they retain water, they provide food for the animals, they cool down the temperature, they transpire moisture. It's just a miracle and a virtuous circle of helping people and biodiversity. Yeah. So
I'm just wondering if there's a connection there, because there's so much energy and research goes into citrus production, avocado production, top fruit production, and what's that all about? This is about horticultural growing techniques, whether that be in Kent, in South Africa, in South America. And I'd love there to be a conversation with some of those horticulturalists as to how they can assist you with those that tree life, as to how there might be a way to accelerate it further with the knowledge that they've already picked up with the likes of avocado or citrus production. But so that we can have a conversation offline on that to see if we can match you up with some individuals. So where does Justdiggit fit in the whole spectrum of solutions to climate change? Is it do you think that the organization of Justdiggit is valid, that it can make a change? With enough momentum, enough people, with enough engagement, can you make a difference?
Yeah, completely, 100%. I mean, well, where to start? I mean, climate change is such a vast and complex problem. There is no sort of single answer. Obviously, we need lots of different things to happen at the same time. We need the economies of the world to decarbonize. The number one priority is to stop emitting carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. That's the major problem. But nature acts as a sink. It acts as a sponge. It absorbs carbon dioxide. So really, it's the other side of this coin, and we have to do both. We have to decarbonize the economies. That's all about green energy and supplying green, sustainable energy for our transport systems, our factories, and our everything else. The way we heat our homes and so on. But we also have to restore nature, because we rely on nature for everything, for crops, for pollinators, for medicines. But crucially, they're a carbon sink, and they are the quickest, most scalable, most affordable way, and so deployable to sort of help mitigate this carbon dioxide problem. We don't set out, just to be clear, we don't set out to take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. That is not our number one objective in life. Our number one objective in life is to regreen as many acres and help as many people in sub-Saharan Africa as we can. Because related to these two issues of stopping emissions of carbon dioxide and sucking it out of the atmosphere. And you can do that in the oceans and peat bogs and proper tree forests and sea kelps and everything else. Allied to that is this idea of resilience and climate justice, where, if we don't help people become food and water resilient on their own land, we have a lot of other types of problems that are coming through, because the people who are least responsible for the emissions are the people that are going to be already the most affected by it. So there's a climate justice and helping people angle here too, which is absolutely critical. And anyone who's working in Africa will understand this 100%.
Yeah, and Africa, I know that you're really looking forward to going out to see some of the sites that Justdiggit are involved in, and you haven't been able to as of yet because of the
two invitations so far, but haven't made it yet because of COVID.
So as I was showing off to you in our planning call, I was very blessed 4 or 5 years ago that I did a motorbike ride from London to Cape Town. So through Africa, I went through 18 different countries and 18,000 kilometers. And then the reason for showing off about that is the scale of Africa is jaw-dropping. We always forget in the UK, especially for those who perhaps not overly travelled, that we are 72 million souls in the UK. Africa is a vast continent, and as such, it can make such a difference to this issue that we've got in the respect of global warming. That if we can adopt the likes of the principles of Justdiggit and to create that difference, and also to help the local communities, it would be fascinating. I just want to also attack the elephant in the room, Stuart. That's in times gone by, one of the biggest issues of that's created this is farming. That farming and big corporates. It was all about mass amount of land being turned over to industrial farming. Where it's fascinating now. And as an example, I've just gone live with my first advert with my recruitment head on to source a farm manager for a big farming business in the UK. And the advert is all about we need you, Mrs. Farm Manager, to get us up to speed on regenerative agriculture and make us a carbon neutral farm. And we're seeing this time and time again, that there's been this absolute sea change over the last 5 years, but it's definitely accelerating. There's going to be one positive, Stuart, off the back of the pandemic, is that everyone wants to do more good. So if we're now seeing businesses, as they have been doing in our sectors for the last 5-10 years, but they just haven't really shouted about it, that they know the issues that have been created in the past, but now they know they've got the ability to do good in this whole area. And so if we're adopting you, and these large commercial businesses know that their only route to success is sustainable farming and agriculture, together, collaborating together, because we can't all do this individually, we're going to be in a far better place. But again, that's why I want these companies to have a look at Justdiggit, because they could absolutely adopt some of your principles that you've just talked about to make a really interesting difference, not only for the land, but the people that are associated with them. What with Justdiggit, Stuart? Are you just going to concentrate in Africa, or have you got plans to look further afield? Is it Africa this year, then the moon next year? What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't lack ambition at Justdiggit, but yeah, Africa is the core focus of our attention for a number of reasons. Clearly, regreening can happen pretty much anywhere, but it can happen in your back garden in Bury St Edmunds, but. We focus on Africa for a number of reasons. Firstly, that's where our founders sort of started Justdiggit. But crucially, there's other really, really key factors, a couple of which you touched on. I mean, the costs of regreening in sub-Saharan Africa are infinitely lower than, say, in California or Germany or the UK. Well done. There is a lot of land. It is extremely fertile. It rains a lot in the right places, usually. So there's lots of sort of obvious geological reasons why we should focus there too. But there's also sort of demographic reasons. You mentioned the population. You would have seen this on your epic motorbike ride. It's a very, very young population in Africa. Yeah. And it's if the modeling is correct, there will be well over 1 billion people in Africa by the end of the century. And this is a sort of ticking bomb in a way, because they will need to be fed. They need to use their land and be resilient on it. And the same for fresh water. It's an enormous sort of issue. When we do our communication roadshows, one of our communication techniques we'll come on and talk about, no doubt, you see this in the villages when they come out to see see the champion farmers doing a roadshow with a screen and music and dancing. It's all really, really young people. And this is sort of this is beautiful and brilliant, but it's also, it reminds you that whereas someone like China's population, Europe's population is probably going down now, the same with the US. Yeah. And China's going to peak after its one-child policy through the sort of 70s and 80s. But Africa is going to grow and grow and grow. And some of the biggest cities on the planet are going to be in Africa.
Yeah, and Stuart, I'll leave it. Sorry, Stuart, I'll even counter that with a bit more information that the 10 fastest growing cities in the world are all in Africa.
Well, there you go, and they're going to need feeding. And if they're not surviving and if they're not making a success of their farms, there's going to be a food problem. So it's in everyone's interest. Particularly, Africa. The AFR 100 and the Union of the African Union, they understand all this, and that's why they're such great partners for us. Yeah. They want Africa to regreen itself, and so this is why what we're doing with many others, I must add, is so vital. And as I say, the land, the available land is there, and the climate is there, the rainfall is there. It's incredible. So it's perfect.
I'm going to see if I can weave this in. So I'm going to see if I can weave in the plastic bag scenario, because I think a lot is learned from the UK and then morphs out around the rest of the world. My plastic bag scenario, Kenya. When you buy food in Kenya, you can't get a plastic bag because they followed us. Because if there's one thing I learned going through Africa, the thing that you see everywhere is plastic bottles and plastic bags. In Kenya, realize that, and so they follow us. They get education, instruction, education. Let's go for education from us, and also that I believe that's been picked up on what we were talking about earlier about the sustainable elements of it. Just go back to Africa feeding itself. The 10 fastest growing cities in the world are all in Africa, and there's a big problem of urbanization. Where the younger generation believe that they can make the fortunes in the city, that they can run off to the city and become accountants and doctors. And it's a very sad fact that unfortunately that doesn't work. And then a lot of young ladies end up working on the street. You can work out what that means, or being a taxi driver. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So there's some of our clients that mentioned a great one, Blue Skies, who operate out of Ghana, and they're the largest private employer in Ghana. And if you buy any slice and dice fruit from the likes of M&S and Sainsbury's, it's likely to have come from them. And they got employed 4,500 people, and there's an ecosystem of 35,000 people that are all associated with the business. And it is a bit like a social enterprise before social enterprises were created. But they realize there's a problem with the urbanization element. So with all the schools of a 50-kilometer radius, they set up a school farm competition. And going back to this regreening element, the kids were excited to dig up the school grounds that weren't being fully utilized to plant veggie patches. And the Blue Skies has a competition every year where the winning schools get computers or laptops. And I've been involved with some of the live streaming on a global basis for them to just publicize. And it's amazing, these 14, 15, 16-year-old kids from the likes of Ghana doing full-blown, they're doing full-blown PowerPoint presentations with Excel spreadsheets showing the profitability of their cucumbers. And I was just absolutely, and where it's worked really well is it stopped those particular kids wanting to go to the city. They want to farm, and they want to farm properly in a sustainable manner. So if we've got, again, here comes the message again, if we've got the likes of Justdiggit, and we've got examples such as Blue Skies encouraging people, and especially with Justdiggit, you can see how there's an industry in itself, because someone's going to have to supply the tools, someone's going to have to give the training, someone's going to have to give the seeds for Justdiggit. And then what do you do with the land 2-3 years down the line? You'll stick livestock on it, and they'll have to be looked after. So again, just trying to stop that urbanization within Africa, using what you've all learned and deployed for Justdiggit. I'm very excited for you all.
Well, thank you. And it is obviously complicated, as you indicate. But I should just maybe tell you a couple of other things about Justdiggit around the techniques we use, because because as I mentioned, just sequestering CO2 is very, very, very much a byproduct of what we do. If we talked about the Kasiki High, this is the tree restoration in Tanzania. What we do is do the education. We don't do the restoration. We make sure the farmers do that. But, we have to inspire them. We have to educate them and empower the smallholder farmers to regreen their land. What's interesting is the main types of tree that come back that are indigenous there are acacia trees, neem trees, cassia, sicklebush. Sometimes they produce crops, medicines. But if we can make those farmers, I mean, they've worked out through positive communication that if we can produce a more productive farm and through this agroforestry idea, they can educate their children. They can not only feed their children, but they can educate their children. And another thing we do in Kenya with the Maasai people is we create grass seed banks, and this empowers the women. So the women do this, and we create fenced off grass seed banks that they then harvest and sell that seed in the local markets, thus again creating economic empowerment. And I can't tell you that this is the part of the virtuous circle. We're not just obsessed with planting things or covering the land with greenery. There is purpose around this. And because it does add to the economy. And obviously a lot of your stakeholders, we're not in the business of producing cucumber farmers or guava farmers or anything. These are subsistence farmers but the principles, I guess, are the same, that you've got to bring back the soil health, you've got to restore nature. Otherwise you won't have your more sort of commercial farms down the track. So the benefits are very much circular and sustainable, And to your point about what happens to the land when we've regreened it, again, if they're rangelands, again around the Maasai areas, just sort of northeast of the Kilimanjaro area, part of the money we put in is to pay for rangers to make sure we don't mind a bit of wildlife on there, but as long as it's not grazing cattle, we've actually had photographs taken of zebra and giraffe roaming around on regreen land, which is so heartwarming. We don't mind that, but we can't have the Maasai putting their cattle on there because they'll chew it all down to nothing again, and then we start again. So they have to be protected for a period of time before we move on, sort of thing. So it does get restored and then it gets protected. It's important that that's understood.
Well done. And then communications. As I inferred that our connection was via this really odd link of Lady Diana. I don't think I've seen another organisation such as yourself with such a strong communications bent. So how's that come about? Because it's. Well,
I think really when you think about it, and I can epitomise this journey personally myself, as in my journey from a sort of the corporate world to the NGO world. I found, I've spent a year and a half doing nothing but reading books and about climate change, and I'm watching podcasts and listening to documentaries. I got myself into a right old depression, if I'm honest.
Oh God, sure.
because it's if you just read about this stuff, it's incredibly paralyzing, and that's the trouble with the complexity of climate change. A lot of people, as they come into this, they find it paralyzing. And the framing of climate issues is really, really, really important. You understand now in the UK that 60% of young people feel worried or extremely worried about climate change. Yeah. And this is a terrible burden for young people to bear. It's no wonder that climate anxiety has entered the mainstream lexicon. Yeah. I mean, the way these topics are discussed can leave people feeling we're all doomed. And that means we should be indifferent or helpless, and both of those are terrible things. So we believe, and we set a lot of store by what Sir David Attenborough said, and he said climate change is a communications issue, and we think it's absolutely bang on. Yeah. After all, ideas spread, and positivity is infectious. There is a fine line between being doom-mongering and being counterproductive and sort of paralysis. So we have to find that line between admitting yes, there's a problem, but also, hey, we've got a solution, come join us. And that's very engaging as a positioning, because we know it's tough out there, we know there's problems, but we've got a solution here, come and join us, dig in. And we find that you know, when you are positive and solution orientated, you do create hope, and it's much more engaging for people to say, yeah, I want to come on board. I want to do something. And I think this is what's missing from a lot of NGO messaging is a degree of positivity. And, you know, we use this all over the place. So, you know, we're blessed to have a lot of partners, but you saw it in our cinema commercial, but we use the same techniques when we're communicating to farmers in Africa. You know, we have billboards, thanks to our partners, JC2Co out there. You know, we have billboards in Swahili, in the local languages, saying, you can do this, you know, you can do this. You know, and this idea of engaging people with positive storytelling is very, very important.
Yeah. And you mentioned partners and also ambassadors earlier. Can you just talk us through who you collaborate with, who your partners, who your ambassadors?
Yeah, we're incredibly lucky. I mean, you know, this is the other thing about being, I think, positive and having clear solutions simple, clear solutions that people can readily understand. You know, we're blessed with a whole suite of partners. Most of our core partners devote their expertise, which is what we want. Yes, we want money. I mean, who doesn't want money when you're an NGO? But we have commercial partners who donate, and governments and government grants and so on. But and obviously the public donates as well. And we're grateful for everything. But we're also grateful for our partner support. So around the world, we have the Havas Group, which is a massive communications company. They help us with creative expertise, and strategic communication planning. And we've partnered with JC2Co, I've mentioned, who are a global outdoor media company. You see their screens all over the UK, but they're in China, they're in America, they're everywhere. But also many other outdoor companies like Blow Up and Ocean, and you've seen the cinema commercials. So we partner with Digital Cinema Media, who are responsible for putting the ads in 75% of the UK cinema screens. And they, when they hear our story, they just say, well, look, how can we help? And, you know, we've also signed 2 amazing PR companies in the UK who are, again, devoting their professional expertise to us. And, you know, we're so grateful. So that's one side of it, the communication side. But of course, on the activation side, in Africa on the ground, we couldn't do it without the local partners on the ground. So the Lead Foundation, the Amboseli Ecosystem Trust I've mentioned, and Maasai Conservation and Wilderness Trust, and many, many more. You know, we're now expanding from Kenya and Tanzania into Uganda, Togo, Ethiopia, and Madagascar. So we've now got, we're now supporting programs, starting some, but supporting others in all these countries. So, you know, we've had an extraordinary year of momentum, and we couldn't do it without our partners. One thing I've learned actually outside of the commercial world is that in the NGO world, we talk about collaboration, not about competition. We talk about collaboration, and we couldn't do it without our amazing partners. And as you mentioned, we have ambassadors. We have one of the world's best known DJs called Don Diablo, who's that's on the website too. He's done a track that the streaming revenues will come to Justdiggit. I mean, it's just incredible. It's called Stream to Regreen, which is, I think, one of the genius ideas that have come out of true collaboration with our partners.
It's one thing I've really learned, and I think everyone's probably a bit bored of me saying it, of the 170, 180 broadcasts we've done over the last 18 months, the key theme that comes through every time is this one word of collaboration.
Yeah.
That's especially with such an important subject. If we can all collaborate to get where we want to get to, and that's amazing, some of the examples that you've given. But being realistic, has this been an easy ride for yourself and the Justdiggit colleagues? Because presumably you're trying to create societal change in the likes of Africa in some respect. Be honest with us. Have you sometimes felt that you've been banging your head against the proverbial shovel because people don't want to engage?
Yeah, I mean, I'm you know, you're absolutely right. It's sometimes it is hard work because. You know, when we talk about collaboration, a lot of organizations still think in terms of competition. But when you work for an NGO like Justdiggit, you realize you're not in competition with anyone. You're just trying to cool down the planet. And no one has a problem with that, really, when you talk about it. So it's easy to create a collaborative narrative around this. But yeah, I mean, when you talk to corporates, particularly, a lot of them are discovering a sort of purpose-led agenda now, and you will have come across this with some of your stakeholders. I certainly have in my business life. And people have many choices. You know, people have They could go into tree planting, they could go into other forms of mitigation, or they could be helping in myriad other ways. And it could just be that regreening isn't their thing, or it could be that they want to help in other ways. But we don't believe that we have a divine right to everyone's support. But we find that when we do tell our story, people really engage and help where they can. Yeah. Whether it's an individual on a personal level or whether it's at a corporate level. Yeah. I mean, some of the toughest issues actually are on the ground doing the work. Yeah. Because not every square meter of African soil or soil anywhere in the world can be restored. Sometimes it's just gone. It's a dust bowl, or the topsoil is washed away and it's rock, or it's not good for agriculture or anything. And sometimes, we have to do a lot of persuading and negotiating with partners on the ground. They're suspicious of people coming in and sort of claiming they've got the solution, but they just love our positivity. And where we can show results, we find the most effective thing is, look, here's what we've done over here. Here's a before picture and here's an after picture. So you can see the difference. And when people can see the difference, they can say, oh yeah, okay, I get it. Okay, we should try this. And so we rely very much on local elders and tribal leaders and community leaders to help us get the message across. So yeah, clearly any NGO will tell you it's not easy. But the good news is the only way is up. We've got phenomenal momentum this year, and there's so much more to go. So we're the opposite of discouraged. We're actually very encouraged by the support we get and the momentum we're creating. But yeah, I'd be wrong to say it's been an easy ride.
Yeah, but you've got to have that resilience, haven't you? You got to keep going on the basis that you've had such a good, you've got such good momentum. Here's that horrible horny question: 3-5 years out, what do you think Justdiggit's going to look like at that point in time, please?
Well, we are very positive about the future, because I think people are now understanding the nature-based solutions. I mean, there was the whole day at COP was devoted to nature. Yeah, well done. You would have seen that. And, we were presenting at COP, and, nature-based solutions are now starting to get the attention they deserve, restoring nature. Yes, we've got to decarbonize the economy back to where we started, but, we also have to restore nature in all its glorious forms. And so people are sort of understanding this, enlightened chief execs and organizations are realizing that there's a route into this complex climate problem that's easy to understand. So we feel that momentum is very much on our, we're riding this wave in a way. It's like, we've got momentum. In the coming years, yes, look, so we're managing programs, and we're also adding media and communication expertise to other programs. But really where the magic is going to happen is if we can scale up. It's an overused word, but exponentially. So we are working on a big plan we call it Beyond Programs. Our programs on the ground, we call them programs. We're working on this strategic plan called Moving Beyond Programs. And this is really where we can communicate directly with literally millions and millions of smallholder farmers directly. Okay. Through their mobile phone, through data technology, not just the ancient farming techniques, but using modern data and technology. Yeah. Most of these guys and girls have got phones. Yep. And they need data. So we're working out ways of making sure there's a proper exchange of value, that if they follow these regreening techniques, they will have free data. Possibly if we can move into this area of proper official carbon sequestration, they could be rewarded for the carbon they are sequestering on their land. So if you provide the right incentives, maybe there's a gamification plan, a competitive plan with their neighboring farmers. So we're looking for funding to do this. And then, of course, we can then really move at pace, because if you can talk to, let's say, 100, 200, 300 million farmers, that's a different order of magnitude.
Oh my God. You put one thing out there to those 300, 400 farmers, and the fundamental change in a positive manner that could
we're going program by program, village by village, and it's working, but it's we don't have time for this. We need to accelerate, and so the only way to do this we see is by using mass technology and mass awareness, using our communication expertise with mass awareness media I mean, for instance, we already make radio programs in Tanzania to tell farmers how you can do this. You know, it's easy. You know, get on board, dig in, and they listen in and think, okay. And then we do the road shows, and we're all the time on social media as well. So you know, we're working on this big plan, and I think for the future in Justdiggit is extremely bright, because you know we are already moving at a huge speed, and because of the awareness campaigns we've done, we now have strong relationships with the United Nations, for instance, and now sort of government developments. They've got large budgets. They're starting to get interested, and you know, as you say, there's a lot of momentum already in Africa. You know, there's a lot of awareness of these issues. So it's just about joining the dots, collaborating with the right people, and yeah, it's, as you say, it's hard work, but you know, there's a lot more to do.
And if I'm smiling like a Cheshire cat, there's a reason for that we know of a number of companies in the ag tech field who are looking to assist the small farmer grower in the likes of Africa. And I'm going to show them this broadcast, because I suspect they'd be very keen to have a conversation with you to see if they can assist. So here comes that word again, Stuart, collaboration. So yes. I wasn't aware of that, and to be able to go to that next logical step. Yeah, what was the phrase you used? Rather than a UK government saying we've got to level up, what was the phrase that you used, just so we could reiterate it?
Oh, well, scale up. I mean,
scale up. There we go. Scale up with Justdiggit. Brilliant. Yeah. So Stuart, why don't we do this? I think it'd be really good, actually, because it's such a nice little video, just to bookend the chat with the video again, so we can really drive that home. So if you just stop your video again, and I'm just going to find it, and we're going to show it off again, because I think it's just so important to drive this home.
Global warming is moving in fast. Time to speed up regreening. If millions of African farmers are empowered, the mother continent can be regreened in 10 years. So dig in, make some noise, and move the masses. Dig in, help inspire the new generation. Fathers, mothers, children, everyone. Regreening is done together. Dig in. Cooling down the planet. Just dig it.
Excellent. I must have watched that about 15 times already, Stuart. So Stuart, I know we can find you on Google, but what's the best way to connect with yourself and your colleagues? How would you like, whether it be graduates or whether it be companies or whether it be people that want to donate money? What's the best way to interact ongoing with Justdiggit, please? Well,
thank you for that. You can contact us via our website, which is www.justdiggit with 2 Gs .org. Just Google us, we're there. There's a donation platform there if it's a relatively small donation. If it's a corporate donation, we have a separate arrangement for that. So just get in touch. There's email addresses on the website, or you can email me at stuart@justdiggit.org. We're very interested in partnering up with people. As I say, we're not really in the commercial food business. I think we've been reasonably clear about that, but we're very interested in talking to any company that wants to help us. That's either financially or in terms of expertise or introductions. Sometimes it's as simple as, have you met so and so? Can I introduce you to X or Y? It might lead to another really interesting, productive conversation. So it's been great talking to you, Max, and thanks so much.
I just love this connotation that you and I got together because of Lady Diana. Who would have thought it? Let's see where it takes us. We've done Lady Diana, we've done the House of Gucci. There we go, Stuart. It's going to be Top Gun. You're going to be the Stuart Taylor Top Gun of Justdiggit. And before we wind up, we just need to know, Stuart, what is your favourite fresh produce?
Favorite fresh produce? Oh, do you know what? My guilty secret is mangoes. I love mangoes. Okay, but if we're staying local, if we're staying UK, it would have to be, I'm going to say tomatoes. Love tomatoes.
Excellent. Yeah, some of the mangoes, just mangoes. How would you consume them? Would you just be cutting the fruit, or would you be doing something exotic with them?
Keep it simple, peel it and eat it. Alfonso mangoes. I had the luxury of eating them. I was given a box from my trip to India years ago, and I've never looked back. I think they're amazing.
Excellent. Stuart, you've been fantastic. Justdiggit's fantastic. Let's keep in contact with you and your colleagues, and I think the future is bright for you, and the difference that you're going to make on a global basis with collaborations is going to be amazing. So Stuart, thank you very much for your time. And everyone engage with Stuart, engage with Justdiggit. You have a look at their website. It's it's all inspiring. That's what I'm going to say.
Thanks very much indeed. We're also all over social media on Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook and so on. So we're easy to get in touch with. But listen, thanks very much, and thanks for the opportunity to talk to you, Max. It's been great.
Stuart, look after yourself. Many thanks.
All the best. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.